name is Sherry Clampett, and home for me is Santa Barbara, California. My journey to yoga always came at a time when I needed healing. The first time that I did any yoga really was, it was recommended by a doctor after scoliosis was discovered in my spine. I didn't know it was yoga I was doing, but the yogic stretches he gave me and the different adjustments, it was a chiropractor, helped me straighten my spine. Many years later, I found myself in a yoga class in my 20s, and that was a life-changing healing moment for me. I was in Shavasana at the end of class, and I connected with my body in a way that I hadn't in a long time, and I had a strong sense that I wasn't well, and I really knew that I needed to get myself to a doctor. It was a very emotional experience because I was feeling very disconnected from here down, and the yoga took me into my body, and that's when I had this awareness and was diagnosed with cancer and rushed in pretty much for surgery. And that, I felt, that moment of stillness in yoga quite possibly could have saved my life. So the yoga took me into some trauma that was related to medical procedures I had experienced in childhood that were traumatic, and it took me a long time and a lot of deep inner work through yoga and breathing and guided meditation and following the inner wisdom of my body to heal. And I'm still healing, always healing. So what a gift yoga is in my life, and it's my passion to share it with other people that are also healing. What does it mean to heal? You know, the word healing means to return to wholeness. And there's such a difference between healing and curing. We can feel healed and yet not be cured. So healing can happen on emotional levels, on physical levels, on energetic levels, where we experience our wholeness. No matter what's happening on a physical, emotional, psychic, psychological level. But I think that we can foster healing in the body through finding harmony and balance, balance between the yin and yang, between striving and resting, balance in the ways that we nourish and nurture ourselves. And a big piece of healing for me has come through doing deep emotional healing work, you know, not just checking out, you know, tuning out the emotional pain, but meeting the emotional pain, meeting the physical challenges, and asking, why are you here? What do you have to show me? And what I find is that alchemy comes with healing. Transformation comes with healing when we meet it, not when we just anesthetize it and push it away. So that's one of the things, the messages I feel from my own experience with healing, and from seeing it and watching it in over 25 years of teaching this style of yoga, is that when we meet it, there's so much that we can discover about ourselves, about our hearts, our spirits, our wounds. And from that, we can grow and learn and heal in multiple ways. Emotions arise, and there can be a tendency to judge them. You know, in many spiritual traditions, beautiful wisdom traditions, anger is not acknowledged, and in that, it's a training of us pushing it away instead of feeling it. My experience of the emotions is that they come up for a reason, and when you're angry, there's a reason you've been triggered into that anger. So to stuff it back down into your body, to push it down energetically, it just creates a sort of energetic cyst within you that the body then holds. And sometimes then it moves into the physical layers and levels of the body. My experience with myself, and you know, is that I had a lot of anger in my body, and it was stuffed into my tissues. And when that was some thunder and lightning, which is so great because we're talking about anger. And you'll see it in nature. you'll see this incredible vital energy that comes alive in nature. Nature expresses through these strong forces. And we do too. And when we feel anger, if we can let that energy move, it's cleansing, it's clearing, it's definitely healing. And for me, when I'd feel tired and I could touch into my anger and start to move that energy, I would feel so much better. I could feel the chi flowing. I could feel a new light within me. And so it's one of the things that I always say is that there's a tendency, especially with cancer, I see it a lot, be positive, think positive thoughts. This is what enhances the immune system. But it's hard to think positive thoughts when you're devastated by a difficult diagnosis and you're dealing with, possibly facing your mortality or hurting terribly in pain. You have to clear the energy that brings up before you can start to feel the peace that's always within you. So I highly recommend letting your emotions be free and fluid. Emotion, feeling our emotion, energy in motion. So let it be like the rain outside. Let your anger move like the thunder. But one thing I do want to say is that anger can be destructive or constructive in how it's used. If I have anger towards my doctor for something that went on, I don't need to go to my doctor and yell at him, but I need to move that energy out of my body, and there's a lot of ways to do it. So using it in a constructive way to heal yourself can be really beneficial and very powerful. So grief is a very powerful emotion, an emotion that we'll all experience in our life. We'll all experience losing a loved one, a beloved pet, a part of our body through illness or surgery. And the grief that comes too when you're sick and you feel like your body isn't your own, or something that was precious to you gets lost. There's so many ways that we experience grief. And in many other cultures, grief is expressed in very strong ways. Mothers will beat the coffins and scream and wail and cry, and it's held as an important emotion to be felt and be experienced. In our culture, unfortunately, there's some discomfort with grief, and there's a tendency to want to put on our dark sunglasses and hold it together. I think it's really important to just create space for your own grief. And for me, losing my father tragically when I was 20, and then losing my mother in a long illness to Alzheimer's, 14 years she was sick, I had the experience of a sudden grief and a long-term grief. With my mother, I grieved frequently on my mat. In fact, my husband would say to me, be sure to feel the feelings that are coming up. He would see me come back from visiting her and another piece of her would be gone. And I just had to feel the pain of that. So I would get on my mat, and often in a back bend, some supported back bend, and I'd breathe intensively into my heart and then just let the emotion flow. And what I came to realize is when you're crying hard, we tend to think of grieving or crying hard as this horrible feeling, but it became an exquisite release and a statement of the love that I felt for her. And she just passed last year, and it takes us as long as it takes to grieve. And for some people, it takes a very long time. And don't have any judgment about that for yourself or others. Give yourself so much compassion to feel your pain, to remember the love, and to journey through it with as much grace as possible. That's all we can do. And we can support other people in their grieving just by listening, just by giving them a hug. You don't have to fix it. There's nothing you have to do. But in yoga, we do that with the earth. The earth hugs us, and holds us, and is always there for us when we step onto our mat, which is a beautiful gift. There were some wonderful things that I learned through being with my mom throughout her journey with Alzheimer's. One was just to be in the moment, which is such a yogic teaching, but she was a profound teacher of that. And as I cared for her, if I could just meet her where she was, not who she used to be, but where she was in every moment, and love her just where she was, whether she was able to talk or not, to recognize me or not, I just gave her a lot of love, a lot of touch. I did a fair amount of yoga with her throughout. She had been a yogini and had practiced her whole, well, since she knew me, and we did a lot of yoga together. And so I brought that to her in every way that I could, all the teachings of yoga, which is a beautiful thing to bring, if you're a caregiver, to your loved one. The thing that happens when you're a caregiver is it's very easy to lose yourself, to forget about yourself. I see that in nurses a lot, who their profession is caregiving. They work so hard that they forget to rest, to get off their feet, even to go to the bathroom, you know. We have to care for ourselves. We have to nurture ourselves to be able to be the caregivers we are in our work, if you're doing this in your work, in your life. One of my great mentors and teachers was Laura Huxley. She was the wife of Aldous Huxley, and she herself was an authoress, had written many books, and was a psychologist. And she said to me one time, she said, "Why is it that people think caring for themselves is selfish? They'll care for everybody else but not themselves." She said, when not caring for yourself and getting sick and your family then needing to take care of you and to suffer watching you suffer is actually the most selfish thing in the world. She taught me so much in that. And as a yoga teacher too, I used to get sick a lot when I didn't take care of myself. I went through periods where, in fact, my teaching partner, Arturo Peel, came over to my house one time and said, "Where are your days off? Where are your vacations?" There was always people in need, and I felt like I couldn't say no. And until I created a healthy boundary and got body work and did my practice religiously and my meditation and ate well and all those things that nourish us, hanging out with friends, you know, having fun in the ocean, all these things can bring us great juice and energy that we can then meet others that we're caring for with that light, with that energy. And what I find is when I'm getting too depleted, I just don't have it to give. So it's really important to fill the well, nourish yourself, especially when you're caring for someone who needs you. Why do we get sick? This is such an enormous question. Thunder and lightning. Wow. Some strong messages from above. You know, there's a tendency as human beings to think that we should be well all the time and happy all the time and feeling good all the time and we should live forever. And it's not meant to be. I think one of the things that's natural, we see it in nature, the flower blooms and then it dies. You know, everything is living and dying and being reborn again. We do that every time we do Shavasana. We let go and we find ourselves reborn in a new moment. And so rather than blaming ourselves or moving into those places of why am I sick and is somebody punishing me, I must have done something wrong, it's part of nature. It's part of life. We're all going to get sick. We're all going to die at some point. And maybe we'll stay well and healthy throughout our life, which is, to me, the ultimate, to care for ourselves in just the most beautiful way that we don't have to suffer. And I'd like to believe that we never have to suffer. But in suffering myself, I see suffering has such beauty in it. I've grown so much in the moments I've suffered, and I've learned so much. And I've turned inward in those moments because I had to, and discovered things that I would have never discovered otherwise. So I think to be gentle with yourself, to bring grace to yourself in those moments that you feel fear about it, and to also relax and trust that you are held in this beautiful universe where everything is living and dying and changing form and shifting. And you know, the body is so brilliant. It's amazing, the knowledge, the wisdom in every cell. I believe the body knows how to heal itself. if we can create the perfect environment for that to happen, there's healing it's happening right now. I don't even have to think about it, you know? But we can also tune our body like we would an instrument and bring even more refined energy flows and nourishment and beauty to this body. I think someone agrees with me on that, to nourish the temple of the spirit, as we call the body in yoga, to nourish and to honor it and to love it and to treat it with tremendous respect and goodness. You know, we're living in a really exciting time because Eastern and Western modalities are coming together. They're yoking, they're joining. And what I've seen in my work with working in hospitals and cancer centers and teaching a teacher training that trains people how to take yoga into hospitals and work with people that are needing healing is we totally complement each other. We complement what medicine is doing, allopathic medicine, with stress reduction techniques, with deep internal explorations and guided visualizations and meditation imagery, with breathing. Sometimes just teaching somebody to breathe well can change their health, can shift their body in some incredible ways, their journey of healing. So I'm excited to see that it's no longer alternative, which kind of gave this feeling of it's us or them, and it's really integrated. We're integrating with the gifts of allopathic medicine, bringing what we can as yoga therapists, as teachers, as healers, to support healing on all levels of the being, not just the physical. And I think that's a real distinct gift that the Eastern brings in, is the touching into all levels of our being and exploring healing multidimensionally, not just the physical, what's going on, you know. So I really, I feel so grateful and blessed to be able to see this, to witness it, because just in my time of teaching yoga, from the very beginning of taking it into hospitals and even hospices, I couldn't even call it yoga because there, you know, it wasn't okay. Yoga wasn't accepted yet. And now yoga has been studied. There's proof, tremendous amount of proof on how valuable and powerful it is and can be when bridged with medicine. When you're diagnosed with any illness, it can be very informational. It can give you some things to work with, which is wonderful. It can also bring up a whole host of things, not only for yourself, but for those around you. One of the most valuable things that I did when I had a reoccurrence of my cancer, so almost 5 years after my surgery, I had a reoccurrence of my cancer. And at that point, I was invited or told to have a partial hysterectomy. And I was young and wanted to possibly have children. And so I decided to try to heal myself as much as I could. And then if I needed to, go have the surgery. And many people were very afraid for me and started to tell me what I should do, which is common because they love you and they want you to do the right thing. You really should do this, and you know, this is what I hear is the best thing to eat, or whatever. You're inundated by good, willing people that want to help. But I spent a lot of time in meditation, tuning into my body, giving my body a voice, giving my cancer a voice, letting it speak to me and guide me. And every day I followed the wisdom that was coming through in my practice. I did a lot of huge changes. I did a lot of deep emotional work. I ate a completely different diet. I swam in the ocean almost daily, pretty much daily actually, because that was something that my body said it wanted. And I lived at the time in LA, and I was far away from the ocean, and different friends and people would drive me to the ocean, and we'd walk on the beach, and I'd swim in the ocean, and I'd float in the ocean and visualize the water washing through me. The cleansing of a storm and the rain and, water is such a healing force. We're just going with it today, but anyway, the journey of healing is such a personal one. And I've had many patients say to me, I want to stop chemotherapy, but my family tells me, no, I've got to keep fighting, but it's making me so sick. And, I think we have to be sensitive to the person. They're the ones inside the body, that they're the ones that are moving through the illness. What we can do is hold a lot of love. And yes, it's great to share knowledge. And yeah, sharing knowledge is wonderful. One of the most important things I feel I can do as a yoga therapist is just to invite people to listen to their bodies and to really garner a deep relationship with their bodies. And they can do all the research and talk to their physicians and make a decision based on what really feels right for them. I think that's a powerful place when we're moving through a healing journey. I want to acknowledge some people that are in my heart. First and foremost, my husband, Avahara, who is such a beautiful soul and holds such safe, sacred space for me to continue to deepen in my healing journey, which is lifelong for all of us. But I'm so grateful for his support and his music, which has helped me through some very difficult healing periods in my life where I just looped it and kept listening to it and breathing to it, and so grateful for it. And grateful for all the teachers and the lineage, this beautiful lineage that we carry in our hearts, in our bodies, in our spirits. And I'm so grateful to be here to share with you therapeutic yoga, yoga for healing. Namaste.